I'll destroy her, and you, and all of it.
Just shy of 37 minutes into The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren gets some bad news and does not take it well. He throws a temper tantrum. Later, after he realizes his captive Rey has escaped, we witness a second fit.
No.
As he screams and hits things, these two stormtroopers have the good sense not to get in their boss's way. Their quick instinct to escape the line of fire reveals this is far from the first time employees have seen Kylo blow his top. In Kylo's scenes before his tantrums too, he has that feel of a volcano on the verge of erupting.
Get all our forces down to that resistance base. Let's finish this.
So what is this talented, handsome, privileged, and powerful youth so angry about? The rage of Kylo Ren recalls the rage of his grandfather, Darth Vader. It's the fundamental emotion of the dark side, as symbolized by the raging red of their lightsabers and the red light they're often bathing in. Here's our take on how Kylo Ren's outbursts illustrate that the dark side is anger and what happens when you let fury take the wheel. This video is part of Star Wars Defined. To celebrate the release of The Rise of Skywalker, we came together with a bunch of other YouTube channels to look at what makes Star Wars, and why it means so much to so many people. After this, be sure to check out the other videos on the playlist. This video is brought to you by Mubi, a curated streaming service showing exceptional films from around the globe. It's like your own personal film festival streaming anytime, anywhere. In Kylo's first tantrum, after he momentarily recovers self-control long enough to ask,
Anything else?
Unfortunately, there is.
The two were accompanied by a girl.
So Kylo responds by force choking the messenger.
What girl?
The move, of course, recalls how his grandfather expressed displeasure in the workplace.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Kylo Ren reveres a pre-redemption idea of his grandfather, Darth Vader, and he himself is the next incarnation of Vader's great power mixed with great passion. The dark side is all about turbulent, overwhelming emotion. As Anakin once pointed out,
the Sith rely on their passion for their strength. They think inwards, only about themselves.
This isn't always obvious in the mature, controlled Darth Vader who had become part machine, but on closer inspection you can see the passions that moved him. Both of these men are extremely feeling and sensitive. And most of all on the emotional front, as Kylo's tantrums encapsulate, both are defined by their rage. They exemplify that walking the path to the dark side is a process of feeding your anger.
Strike me down in anger and I'll always be with you. Just like your father.
Anger is all about control. It's an attempt to seize control when you're feeling powerless. When Kylo or Anakin sees that things are not to their liking, their anger is an attempt to force the universe to bend to their will. When Anakin can't stop his mother from dying and fears the same fate for his love Padme, he tries to regain a feeling of power by killing others.
I killed them all.
And even kids himself that he can learn to conquer death.
I will be the most powerful Jedi ever. I will even learn to stop people from dying.
Kylo too responds to his frustration and pain by trying to take control.
Let the past die. Kill it, if you have to.
Both Kylo and Vader are exceptionally gifted with the Force.
We're checking the registers now to identify which stormtrooper it was.
The one from the village. FM 2187.
But it's dangerous to have such special powers because it gets you hooked on the feeling that you can change things you don't like.
You and I can rule the galaxy. Make things the way we want them to be.
Vader's and Kylo's self-delusion is that they can achieve immunity to the hurt and loss they fear. Even if you turn every living creature into your slave,
I will finish what you started.
Lording over your earthly dominion only distracts from the painful reality that human beings lack control over the most important things in life, like health, love, birth, and death. You can be the most powerful person in the universe, but when the mentor you trust most has betrayed you, or your heart is broken from grief, what is all that power really worth? Total control is always out of reach, and chasing it leads to misery, as we've seen in countless portrayals of powerful men who can't possess what really matters. One of the main morals of Star Wars is that we have to accept our powerlessness over the cycles of life and death. Only when we let go of this desire to play God can we be free of the dark passions that torture us. The dark side's red anger is juxtaposed with the light side's blue, which represents hope. So why are anger and hope opposites? Both are responses to seeing that the universe is not as you want it to be. But whereas anger tries to force the universe to shape up, hope is more like planting a seed and watering it, trusting that it will grow into a beautiful flower.
When I served under Leia, she would say, "Hope is like the sun. If you only believe in it when you can see it."
You'll never make it through the night.
It's active and optimistic, but it requires acknowledging that your control is limited. It represents an act of faith in life and the natural order beyond yourself. So where does Kylo's or Vader's wrath come from? Anger is frequently a response to fear.
She describes anger as fear plus a target, or fear plus a cause or a person to blame for it.
And as Yoda once told us, fear is the beginning of the path to the dark side.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
So in the beginning, we have fear, which yields anger. And from there, we get the hate and the suffering. Anakin's angry descent begins with his fears of losing his mother, and then Padme.
Just help me save Padme's life. I can't live without her.
Kylo's rage seems to come from his uncle's betrayal. But what was so traumatizing about waking to see Luke holding a lightsaber over him wasn't just that his uncle considered killing him. This moment showed that Luke lacked faith in his nephew and believed the worst about him. So underlying Kylo's anger toward Luke and other agents of the light side is a fear that his uncle was right about him, that he was a bad person who deserved to die.
And the last thing I saw were the eyes of a frightened boy whose master had failed him.
After he's turned to the dark side, Kylo's anger is rooted in another fear, that he's not as strong as his grandfather.
You're afraid that you will never be as strong as Darth Vader.
There's something hilarious about Kylo's blow-ups, which the SNL Undercover Boss Starkiller Base sketch gets plenty of mileage out of.
Look, I found Kylo Ren's lightsaber. Look at it up close.
Then you don't have to look at it anymore!
I'm 90% sure Matt is Kylo Ren.
The humor comes out of this behavior's childishness, which is at odds with his self-seriousness, illustrious position, and solemn devotion to evil. Having a temper tantrum is something we most associate with toddlers, who don't yet know how to regulate their overwhelming emotions when something doesn't go their way. I hate you! So these outburst scenes are here to emphasize how young and raw Kylo is. Far from the polished, self-possessed person Vader was when we met him, this character is rough and unfinished.
I feel the conflict in you. It's tearing you apart.
He's still becoming, and to some degree, this respected, influential guy is just a scared, spoiled little brat.
You're just a child in a mosque.
This might make us wonder, how many intimidating people in positions of power are equally insecure and underdeveloped? Kylo Ren's immaturity gets at how those with exceptional intelligence, ambition, or privilege can often be stunted in the simpler yet most essential aspects of being a human being. Achieving great success early in life might make a person feel he's not subject to the same laws as everyone else.
You know I can take whatever I want.
The world may not have demanded that exceptional Ben Solo grow up and stop being so emotionally childish, but ultimately he suffers because he never learned how to do this. So through his lack of inner peace, he illustrates how important it is to cultivate maturity and self-restraint if you ever want to feel truly fulfilled. As much as Ben Solo carries Anakin Skywalker's personality into a new era, in some interesting ways he's an inverse of his grandfather's story. Whereas Anakin's romantic love for Padme pushed him towards the dark side, Ben's feelings for Rey offer an opportunity for redemption, which he tries to reject. The most fascinating update from grandfather to grandson is that, while Anakin is seduced by the dark side, Kylo fears he'll be seduced by the light side.
I feel it again. The pull to the light.
Like a classic Buddhist, Yoda preaches that the light side requires letting go of attachments, like Anakin's to Padme.
Train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose.
But Kylo has taken this idea to such an extreme that he might remind us of a religious zealot who views all love as a failing and a distraction from his devotion. We might read a subtle cultural commentary into this update. In the first two trilogies, it was clear, at least, that the dark side was bad and heroes were supposed to resist it. Kylo's framing his service to the dark side as noble and the light side as the threat reflects a world that's shifted from black and white to more shades of gray. If you were to transplant the world of Star Wars onto ours, you'd have to assume that the vast majority of mainstream society would be part of the First Order, or the Empire before that. The rebels represent only a tiny sliver of the population. And in the First Order, Kylo achieves success through cold-hearted ambition and ruthlessness.
The villagers.
Kill them all.
It's no exaggeration to say these qualities are prized in our cutthroat corporate society too.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Just as Kylo worries that the light qualities in him are weaknesses, our world constantly sends the message that selflessness doesn't pay, and nice guys finish last.
You chose to get ahead. You want this life, those choices are necessary.
So as much as Kylo's rage comes off as a selfish little boy's freaking out when he doesn't get exactly what he wants, anger is also a completely appropriate response to a contemporary world that's incredibly messed up, not to mention very scary.
You come from nothing. You're nothing. But not to me.
Ultimately, what's so satisfying about Star Wars is it builds epic stories around the emotions and dualities that define our lives. We can all relate to this story of what to do with our anger. It might be the defining emotion of our times, but ultimately, Star Wars is about the tragedy that ensues when you give in to that anger, seeking to punish and control.
Once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny.
The only productive response to the powerlessness of our human condition is to power the side of hope. Have faith that the best of humanity can't be extinguished, and don't let the anger swallow you up.
I've given everything I have to the dark side.
Hey guys, this is Alani, and today I want to talk to you about one of our favorite places to watch movies. Mubi. Mubi is a treasure trove of films. Every day, Mubi premieres a new film. Whether it's a movie you've been dying to see or one you've never heard of before, there is always something new to discover. So in this world where it's very easy to spend hours debating what you should watch, Mubi is like having a really cool friend with amazing taste in movies, making it so much easier for you. They feature hard-to-come-by masterpieces, indie festival darlings, influential art house and foreign films, lesser-known films by your favorite famous directors, and more. Plus, you can even download the films to watch offline, and there are no ads, ever. One movie you can check out right now on Mubi is The Cotton Club Encore, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. This recent recut of the award-winning film follows characters whose lives intersect at the famed Harlem jazz venue, The Cotton Club. We can't recommend Mubi highly enough. You can try it out now for free for a whole month. Just click the link in the description below.